You are now listening to the Mythic Rare Podcast with your host, Graham Pollard, and the icon, Willie B. Welcome back to the Mythic Rare Podcast. We are on episode 8 already, Willie B. I can hardly believe it. But it's a big episode, Mythic Championship 6, preview episode, kind of. As always, we are joined by the one, the only, the icon, Willie B. Willie B, what's going on?
Nothing much, Mr. Pollard. Just got back from a riveting experience out in Colorado. Got to be able to see the beautiful mountains, but most importantly, I got to play Magic with some boys on a car trip, so that was so much fun. Also, we got to listen to the podcast, and I got to listen to some of the ones that you had interviews with other people, and it's just a swell time. I love Magic. I love being here, and I'm so stoked for this Richmond Magic Fest.
There is nothing better than a quality bonding sesh over Magic the Gathering and a long car ride. Doesn't get better than that. Did you see a lot of elk in Colorado?
I did see a couple elk, and but you know what? These elk were a little bit better. It wasn't the same old boring elk that you see in every single Oko deck. It was the real life elk. Thank the Lord. But there was, for you Magic fans though, if you ever want to go see, a great place to buy some sweet cards, and then also be able to play against some people and just see just a really cool experience. If you're ever in Denver, Mile High Comics, it's like the largest comic store, I believe, actually in the world. It's a massive warehouse of just like comic books, but they also have Magic tournaments there that they host, and so they sell a bunch of Magic cards as well too. I was able to pick up a few myself, which was actually really nice. I got to find a couple that I had been missing and been wanting, and I got them for a relatively decent price, a little bit cheaper than you would be able to, online. So it was a nice find. It was a nice trip, so I really enjoyed it.
That's hype. Yeah, I've actually never been to Colorado, but definitely trying to check it out at some point. How long was the drive? Like 12 hours or something?
Tried 22 and a half hours.
Yeah. Way off.
Yeah.
So 44 round trip, or?
Well, so I flew back.
Okay.
So I drove out there because the ultimate purpose of the trip was to move one of my former bosses. He accepted a new job out there, and he wanted some help moving in. So we drove out there. But if anybody, and you know what, if you're a listener from Kansas, I'm sorry, but Kansas is living hell to drive through. It is the worst experience I've ever had in my entire life. It literally looks the exact same for 7 straight hours. It's flat, and you just can't see it. I mean, you just see everything, and you're just like, when do I get out of this eternity hell? But other than that, I mean, everything else is great. But, man, that drive through Kansas is brutal.
Well, that's just an excuse to play more Magic if you live in Kansas, I guess. You got nothing else exciting to do, it sounds like. So just hop on Arena.
Exactly.
You got a built-in excuse.
Exactly. Just play Magic with the boys.
Yeah. Well, I've got a much shorter drive this week up to Richmond, or we both do, I should say, for the Magic Fest and Mythic Championship 6. The last Mythic Championship, we had a expert panel. I called it the Averhub Power Panel, to break down, kind of go off form for this podcast and break down more competitive, in-depth analysis of what we expected to be in the tournament. And I was going to do that again for this one, but really, there is no point. Can you remember the hype ever being so low for a Mythic Championship, Willie B? Because it's first of all, it's 15 days or whatever after the last one. And second of all, nobody even wants to be playing or talking about Standard right now.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of the meta is just so dull and boring, but then also it's the fact that I don't know, I think like you said, it came right after another one, and I don't know if it's because it's in Richmond this time, and people just aren't hyping it up, but I feel like that should evolve, make more hype, is the fact that they are in Richmond, because they're in this new location. Try and get some of that East Coast audience, since you've just been catering to the West Coast with most of your tournaments. You should be trying to lock down that audience, so I feel like the hype should be higher, but I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just because the Standard is stale. And then Andre, we had with Andre last week, we were just talking about how part of the game is almost starting to get a little frustrating. Everybody's getting frustrated, whether it's from the actual Standard, whether it's from the confusion of what's going on with Pioneer, or the fact that Historical just is butchering online and just stuff like that. It's something about Magic just feels a little bit off right now. So that's why I think we're here to tell you what can bring Magic back up to its hype, what can make Magic that international sensation.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Yeah. So we had Andre Leverod, the CEO of AverHub, on last week. Definitely should check that episode out if you're new to the podcast. But yeah, and I think like everyone is so hype about Pioneer at the moment that that's just like what 90% of the focus in the Magic community is on, and the 10% of focus on Standard is just not enough to build the hype around this. So that's why I want to spend most of this episode talking about other ways you can build hype around a Mythic Championship, and how, if Wizards is smart, they can turn a Mythic Championship into an international spectacle and sensation. But before I do that, we are going to go to Richmond, despite what we were just saying about how kind of unexciting the tournament are. But I'm pumped to go to Richmond because, well, first of all, it's going to be my first time at a Mythic Championship and at Magic Fest. Magic Fest is this weekend. But also, we're going to be ambassadors for AverHub, which is pretty hype. We got a bunch of fire play mats. We got 2 different styles. So if you're listening to the podcast and you run into us, I'm going to be wearing probably go full suit. Why the hell not?
Full send, exactly.
Yeah, probably put a fake media badge on. I've been known to do that in the past. But if you see me, I'll be handing out some AverHub playmats. So come and tell me you listen to the podcast, and we've got a sweet AverHub playmat with your name on it. So definitely check that out. Other than that, I'm just really excited to go and meet a lot of our fans, meet some people in the community, hopefully meet some pro players, some of the people that we've had on in the podcast I believe are going to be there. So it's going to be an awesome time, and hopefully we can see some of you guys out there.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this Mythic Championship, even though the hype isn't necessarily around it quite like Mythic Championship 5. I think it's still going to be absolutely excellent. And you know what I'm most excited though is the fact that it's the card version. I've been waiting ever since, especially since we started this podcast, but lately my fandom has been getting, more and more into Magic, and I just really like, playing wise, it's easier to play on the computer. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. I personally prefer playing Arena just because, it's really simple. You can play it anywhere. It's a lot easier access. You don't have to worry about finding opponents. But for the actual championship, I love the cards because I think it has the ability to create so much more hype. It has the ability to create so much more drama, and everything can just be taken to a new level if it is A, allowed, and B, thrown out by a specific player. We need that one persona just to come full swing. And you know what? I think Magic has shown that it is all about that. Like we said, they allowed the protests of Hong Kong. So clearly they want some energy. They want people to be their own selves. And so I think Magic has the ability to do that. It just takes one person in this tournament to absolutely just do something wild, something sensational, something that is a spectacle that would be talked about forever.
Could not agree more. Okay, let's break down how you can turn Mythic Championships into the, let's face it, kind of mediocre event they are now, even though I still love them, don't get me wrong, but they could be dramatically improved, and we're going to do that. So let's start with some of the kind of realistic ways they can improve Mythic Championship, and then we'll get into more of the kind of out there suggestions that we have, I guess. But number one, can we please stagger the off the top videos from day to day to day? Like, they're cool videos, and if I understand that during an 8-hour broadcast you're going to need to take a break at some point, just because that's the nature of how it works. You need to reset. But and if you're going to do that, the off the top videos are not the worst way to do that. But do we need to see the same videos on Friday that we do on Sunday? Like, it was cool watching how Reed Duke eats oatmeal the first time. It wasn't cool watching how Reed Duke eats oatmeal for the 42nd time. And yes, I did go out and buy steel cut oatmeal after watching that, but still, that's besides the point. Can you just, it can't be that hard to put 10 off the top videos on Friday, and then 10 new ones on Saturday, and then 10 new ones on Sunday, and also hire a sales staff to sell more advertisements for the Twitch stream, because I would honestly rather watch ads than watch a 40-second fake phone call conversation about people answering questions 17,000 times over and over again.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it just needs to be a little bit more enjoyable because, like we said, I mean, these are long long events that go on. And so watching, from Twitch, you don't want to see the same videos over and over again. It just gets so drawn out, it gets so boring, and then you start to get a little frustrated having to continuously watch the same thing. So, like you said, yeah, maybe getting new ads, maybe having more interviews, just, whether even if it's like the players themselves doing like home style videos where they just videotape
Yeah.
themselves, they talk about their life, talk about how they got into Magic. And you know what you get, because then you're now able to get to know the players a little bit more, and not just the top dogs. You can get to know like some of the, quote unquote lower level players, or the people that haven't been able to break out yet. And you can kind of form that personal relationship with them. And then even then they can like plug in their Twitch channel and something like that. So then you create this constant, fan base to where you can become, you feel a part of them and you become a really big fan. Because at the end of the day, I've had this conversation, because there's, you don't know, I am a sport management major, so I've had these conversations with plenty of professors and whatnot. But it's not necessarily, number one thing about sport is it's not necessarily about the talent level. It's how do you feel with them? Like, what is your personal connection with these teams or these organizations? And that is how the fandom is described. That's why college sports have the quote unquote better fandom than professional sports. And if you guys didn't know that, that tends to be a thing. College football stadiums are actually bigger than NFL stadiums. The college basketball arenas and NBA arenas are the same size. But the reason why college football stadiums are bigger is because people have a personal connection. And if you can make that personal connection with the Magic players, oh my gosh, I can't think of anything else that would be better for the game. Because now you're invested not only because it's a great game, but you're invested because you're a fan of somebody and you want to see them succeed at a high level.
They actually did have a couple cool videos like that. Like they had Brad Nelson and Brian Braun doing like a welcome, like an MTV My Crib style video for their Magic House. So that was cool, but they played that like once or twice and then like I never saw it again. If you're going to marathon 8-hour broadcast, you don't want to watch the same like 10, 45-second videos 45 times a day and then 45 times the next day is all I'm saying about that. So even though I have no problem with the off the top videos, I just want them to stagger them day by day so we're getting fresh and new videos from Friday to Saturday to Sunday. And I think that would be the first minor improvement. So that is minor improvement, I will say, but that is like should be pretty realistic and easy for them to do. My next improvement will be, we have talked about this before, and we have talked about some of the things we're getting into before, more pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
You definitely need more fireworks, more light shows. I was just left in a state of despair and dismay after I saw them go backwards and not have any pyrotechnics last Mythic Championship when they did the previous Mythic Championship in Long Beach. And yes, that could have had to do with the venue they were in, but frankly, I don't really care. Find a venue that allows you to have pyrotechnics and just really go overboard. Any way you can find to add more pyrotechnics, light shows, smoke machines, fog machines, do it.
Yeah, I agree. And especially for like the championship. So I like the little sparklers of the pyrotechnics for like, earlier on. But when it's the final, I think it should be, I don't know if there's any wrestling fans out there and you remember Batista. And he would drop down and he would like just shake his fist, and it was almost like a machine gun of fireworks going off. And I think something like that, where it's almost like the firecrackers fireworks, going off as somebody's walking out, just to absolutely, because that's setting the tone of like, it's legit, we're ready to go, like, let's get hype, baby, it's the championship. And I think
here's another thing, each player in a future match should be allowed to have their own custom walkout song. Like any other sporting event, baseball, basketball, you have kind of walkout songs, I guess, for like warm-ups or when the team walks out. Any type of fighting, mixed martial arts, UFC, WWE, you get your own walk-up song. We're talking about 1v1 mono Magic here. You should be able to have your own custom walk-up song that's going to get you hype and get you ready to go going into the game.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually about to say that earlier. The custom walk-up song is something that I think could be just fantastic, and I think it's something that is necessary because nothing gets a player themselves more hyped than the fact that they get their own walk-up song as well too, and they get to hear this song that always gets them pumped. So now they're in the zone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so this is all building and culminating to what they really eventually needed to become an international sensation is they need some viral moments where your average Joe in like, I don't know, Sri Lanka, and then your average John in like Kansas is gonna see some clip pop up on Twitter and be like, what was that? I gotta check it out. And this culminates in straight up WWE style walkout entrances, not just an entrance, but a whole performance. I really think, and this is not an exaggeration, I think at least half of the budget for a Mythic Championship eventually, I'm not saying right away, but a couple down the line, half of the budget should go into ring walkouts and WWE style entrances for the players in the top 8.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was gonna and we've had this discussion as well too. WWE style entrances are major key, and then I wish that it could be a so if they have like a floating platform even that brings them out, and then like we said, yeah, with smoke and whatnot and the pyrotechnics, it'll be like they'll be coming out of the fog, and this platform's just going to be rising them. I mean, I can't think of anything, or even just like the Undertaker thing. Just imagine it's about to be Mythic Championship. They turn off all the lights, and then boom, all of a sudden they turn them on, and there's the player just standing there right at the table, ready to take his opponent down. Especially, imagine how terrifying it would be, especially in one of these ones where it's like the card format, where they turn off all the lights, and say it's the favorite is the one that has this Undertaker themed style, and so they turn off all the lights. His opponent is already sitting at the table, turns them on. Next thing you know, he's standing behind his opponent, staring him down. That would be electric.
See, if they put that clip out on Twitter of what you just described, guaranteed that's getting like 5 million views. I would put my life on that because that is just absolutely electric, and there's no questioning that. One slight thing, though, how that kind of counters your what you just said, is I would actually like to see, at least for the championship, maybe not necessarily a stare down, but a meet in the center and shake hands before you go to your table, but kind of like a stare down is what I'm getting at. Because what happens now is one person will walk out, sit down, the next person will walk out, kind of awkwardly, like pat them on the back for a handshake or whatever. I think one person should walk out, stand in the center. The next person should walk out, have to man up, face him, man or woman up, face him, shake hands, sit down, and then start the game. Just, a little showmanship, a little class. So if you're playing for $100,000, you should be able to look your opponent dead in the eyes before you sit down and start, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. I like that idea. Maybe just have them walk out almost MMA style, have them go to each corner of the ring, and then they come meet in the middle.
That's a good idea.
That would be cool as well, too. I think another big thing would be the fact that, sorry, another huge one could be maybe if they just we need a controversy. I'm going to be blunt with it. We need some form of controversy, whether it's at the end of one of these tournaments, somebody just like grabs the other opponent's deck and just throws it, like.
That would be wild.
I kind of not necessarily starts a brawl because obviously we do not condone violence and we do not want there to be violence or anything like that, but something of that sort. There was obviously the cheating controversy way earlier in the year, this year, with somebody boosting their deck and like especially placing their card.
Yeah, marking. Wasn't it marking the back of the cards?
Yeah, he was marking. Yeah, he was marking his cards. Which I mean, I think that was pretty big controversy. That one actually blew up on Twitter as well. Got a bunch of clicks and engagements. So I think something like that is always, it's a necessary evil at the end of the day, because you know what they say, any publicity is good publicity. And obviously we don't want there to be all out brawls at Mythic.
Or cheating, really. I don't.
We don't want cheating, but we need some form of controversy. Yeah, it doesn't have to be cheating, but like taking somebody else's deck and just like throwing it, or flipping a table after a match, like something like that of that sort. I think would be fantastic.
I totally agree. One more thing I want to add from my previous point of kind of walking entrances quickly. I think that the announcer, Becca Scott or Day 9, whoever is introducing, I think they need one of those microphones that drops down from the ceiling, and then they grab it and then it revolves back up into the ceiling. That's a nice touch. And that shouldn't be too hard to do, although, to be honest, I don't know too much about the logistics behind that. But yeah, so what you're saying with controversy and drama sells. Just look at the Kardashians. Just look at any other reality TV show. People are hooked when there's a storyline. People are hooked when there's controversy, whether it be either good or bad.
Look at any sporting event, honestly.
Yeah, any sporting event, any TV show, any radio program, or like the old Howard Stern, for example. Old Howard Stern was the most popular radio show in the whole United States. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that, to be honest, but it was up there. And like he didn't even talk about anything. All he did was roast his producer behind the glass and like make up drama and infighting between the other people on his show. And that had like millions of listeners every single day. Granted, that was like 20 years ago. But the moral of the story and the point I'm getting at is controversy can only be a good thing, in my opinion. For whatever reason, it seems like whenever I bring this up, some people in the Magic community tend to shy away from this. But if you're looking to attract a bigger audience and to become an international spectacle and sensation, you need some storylines, I think. They don't have to be manufactured, but if you want to take a esports entertainment route, you could manufacture some. I'm not totally opposed to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of those, it gets under the skin of some people, especially people that have been lifelong fans, because it's like, well, am I not good enough? And it's not saying that, you're not good enough fans, but it's the fact that we want to draw in a different audience. So it's almost like, and think about it though. Think about what happens when you don't accept this change. Think about baseball. Baseball's World Series Game 7 was apparently the best, apparently was a phenomenal game to watch. It was the lowest watched Game 7 in World Series history or in recent years or something like that.
World Series history, yeah. Yeah. The average age was like 64, I want to say, of viewers.
It's because the old people of baseball don't accept change. They don't want to embrace change. When somebody starts bat flipping, they're, oh, come on, keep the game the way it's meant to be played.
This is the hot button. Willie B could talk about this for 2 hours.
Yes.
So let's move you along. But
and the reason why I just bring that up is baseball is dying between the younger generation because they refuse change. So as a Magic community, there are going to be some things, obviously, everybody has their own morals and everybody has their own standards for what they want to see the game. And like we said, we don't want there to be like all out brawls. We don't want everything to be like too over the top, but we need a little bit more showmanship in order to draw in that audience. And it's like I said, it's the like greater evil or the necessary evil. Sorry, like
I don't even think it's an evil, to be honest. I think there's nothing but positives that come out of it.
I think the fact that there's even if because at the end of the day, everybody's a human. So we want to see raw emotion.
Yeah,
so
I definitely want
somebody flip a standard or flip a table afterwards. You know what? Some people are going to bash them. Oh, that's not the way the game's supposed to be played. You're supposed to play with respect. Imagine you're in a championship and you lose. You're going to be angry. You're going to take out your frustration. I've never seen anything more real than there was this one time I was watching, a stream and this guy was freaking out. And then his chat's roasting him. He's like, guys, what's the difference between me, a big-time streamer freaking out, and all of you freaking out whenever you play your games? He's like, I get in trouble because I'm a bigger name, but at the end of the day, we're all human. We all do these things. And I think that's the perfect mentality we need to have, is that it's okay for them to get angry. It's okay for them to get frustrated because we do that in our own homes all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've, smashed a keyboard, punched a door, thrown things over video games. You just have natural human instinct to get frustrated.
Well, first of all, I think that if someone flips a table, they should get roasted, to be honest. However, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's a talking point.
Well, yeah.
And a talking point is what we need. Imagine, we're talking about just things that are going to draw in. If you want to become an international sensation and spectacle, Magic's already got their core audience. You need to reach out to everyone else in the world. And everyone else in the world is going to be drawn in by something like somebody doing something crazy, like freaking out, throwing a tantrum. I think a lot of people would criticize that and say that that's not what the game's about. But I would disagree, and I would say for the long-term longevity of the game, eventually to really become an international sensation, my next point I was going to say is bigger prize money. But in order to get bigger prize money, you need to get a bigger audience, and it's just a circle. The way you get a bigger audience, like I said earlier, is you got to go viral, and you got to come up with some viral moment that's going to get someone who's never heard of Magic to be like, wow, I need to check out Magic right now.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and it's one of those, like we said, obviously not all this is going to happen, but these are just some things that, could potentially reach out that different audience. And I mean, I'm sure all of you guys have different ideas, and if you guys have, some form of idea that you'd like for us to share, feel free, comment, message us on Discord or anything like that. We'd be more than willing to talk about it. But these are just some things that, come off of our head, and as people that have observed entertainment, throughout the world, whether it's in the sport industry or just, basic, like you said, the radio industry. These are necessary things. You need something in order to reach that extra audience. Magic has its core audience. I'm not saying it's peaked its core audience, but as of now, it's not necessarily growing.
Well, it is growing. No, it's growing. No. It should be growing faster.
You didn't let me.
The investment
you didn't let me finish. Yeah, I was saying it's not growing at the level that it should be.
Right.
It's still growing. Obviously, there's new people getting into Magic, but what is going to make it explode? Because like we said on our last episode, Riot is making a new card game. So Magic needs to go ahead and take that audience because there's more of these card games coming out. Even after the player got banned from Hearthstone, there was some other card game that had recently come out that offered him a contract into their league. So it's having to compete with these other card games and not get kind of stuck in the mud. We need something to bring in the energy, something to bring in the excitement into these Mythic Championships. And, like we said, it doesn't necessarily have to be all these things. Proper, meta balancing is obviously a huge thing because I think, like we said, the reason why the hype might not necessarily be that high for this Mythic Championship is because people are bored of the current meta. Like, everybody's tired of Oko decks.
Yeah, it obviously starts with building a good game. We should have mentioned that off the top. The first thing you got to do is have a good game. So obviously, game design has got to be better and not create a standard that's going to be this lopsided. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. The next topic, which I mentioned earlier, that I think you need to have Magic become an international sensation, is you need someone to get legitimately rich from playing Magic.
Yeah.
I'm talking like, cause how much money did Ninja make? Like a couple $1 million a year?
Yeah, I mean, he's made he made a bunch of millions of dollars from like all of this stuff. We need somebody from Magic to get that crazy ad money to get,
I'm not even talking really streaming though, and Ninja might have been a bad example. But
well,
I'm talking like,
but I mean, if you look at it, who was it? I mean, even Booga from the Fortnite World Cup won whatever it was.
Right, yeah, he won a couple million from winning that. That's what I'm saying. Hasbro is a colossal company. I don't think people realize how big of a company Hasbro is. And, there's a lot of negativity surrounding Hasbro's involvement in Magic, and I understand why. But if Hasbro was smart, they would invest a significant chunk of money into Magic, into creating, first of all, I will say that for now, the $10 million in prizes they're giving out this year is really good. I would say that's kind of sensational, actually. Yeah. And kudos to Magic for doing that. But I think I think it is possible to up that even more, to have potentially the World Championship, because I believe the prize money for the World Championship, or the total prize pool, is the same. I think there needs to be one tournament per year with like the winner gets $1 million. I think that might seem extreme, that might seem ridiculous, and I'm not saying that should happen right away, but Hasbro could easily afford that. Let's put it that way. Hasbro spends $240 million a year on product development, and that's actually gone down, and Magic the Gathering is their or Magic the Gathering Arena is currently their highest revenue earner, I believe. So, if you can spend $240 million a year on product development as a company, you can afford to have a tournament where the winner wins $1 million. And I think that would be huge for the game to have, one person get legitimately rich, legitimately wealthy from playing Magic the Gathering, and that would encourage a lot of other people who want to follow that path, and a lot of smart people, and a lot of really good players to get involved with the game too.
And I think if they do one with $1 million, it needs to be one of two things. Nothing in the middle between this. It either has to be a super elite one where it's like the top, I don't know, say 8 or 16 players in the world, like that's it, and they all play against each other. Like everybody plays against each other once, and then like the top four advance or whatever. Or it should be one where anybody, it should be one of those where anybody can qualify, and there's a certain set period, and you have to reach
Yeah,
a certain
I like the
goal.
second option.
Which I think that one would be big. Um, but the only problem that comes with that is because then it's like what technically are the qualifications? Is it you have to play a certain amount of games? Do you have to have a certain winning percentage? Do you have to get to a certain rank? Um,
Um, yeah, there's a whole network of ways to qualify these tournaments that is
but yeah,
incredibly
if you like,
complicated. I think they should streamline that. They should say, well, I like how they do it on Arena, and there obviously needs to be a tabletop method to get in via tabletop because that's an important aspect of the game too. But yeah, I think maybe if you have one big tournament with a lot of qualifiers, everyone gets in. I mean, I'd probably just do their same method that the Worlds are now, because
yeah,
that is hard to get into tournament, but and it is the biggest tournament in Magic, so rightly so, it should be hard to get into. Uh, and if the winner, like Javier Dominguez, is making good money because he's won $200 prize pools, so that's good. Imagine if he won $2 million prize pools,
yeah,
and he's now made a couple $1 million playing Magic, and then you see him their next promo video, he pulls up in a Ferrari that's got like a Magic vanity license plate on the back, and he's wearing like Versace bathrobes to these tournaments and stuff like that. That would motivate me a hell of a lot more. I'll say that.
yeah. I agree. Like I think that's what's kind of necessary in these is just one of these just massive prize pools, and I think it's doable. And I
I
think
know it sounds extreme, but
and I
I
think
do think
I
it's
think the
doable.
hype, and we're not saying it has to happen by the end of this year, or even by the end of next year, but within the next 2 to 3 years, it just because all of the games, that's happening with all the games now, is these massive prize pools are coming in, which is just absolutely amazing. Like you love to see it. Uh, for example, I think it was uh, I might have to double check this, but I was it StarCraft? No, it was Dota. Dota 2, their winnings, like each player won like $2 million or something along the lines of that. I'll pull up the exact numbers. So, oh yeah, the Dota champions, each player won $3.1 million.
Not too shabby.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if Dota can do it, and Magic just needs to think bigger, is the moral of the story. And to compete with the big boys, you got to act like a big boy,
yeah.
and you got to be giving out $1 million prize pools.
And
In
to
my
put that in perspective,
eventually,
yeah, so like that was just this year alone, Dota 2. And Dota 2's been around, Dota's been around for a while, so it's one of these things that you can build up to. But Dota 2, $3.1 million for 5 players. So the entire team won $15 million. Like we said, Booga won 3 million from the Fortnite World Championship. And to put that in perspective, I mean, that's even as high as some other sports as well
yeah,
too. The Masters
it's
only
like
paid 2 million. Um,
tennis is about that much
yeah,
for a lot of the
Wimbledon
tournaments.
was 2.9 million, and Indy 500 was 2.7 million. And obviously, don't get us wrong, like we know that is a lot of money. Um, but even like those other sports, they get a lot more money. Like even the Masters, you
It's
don't
an investment,
actually.
though.
Yeah,
It's an investment where uh,
it
it'll
gets people talking
encourage
about it.
enough people to invest in the game where they're going to eventually make up that prize money. And it's going to be a good token for your loyal players that have stuck with the game that says, yes, we are committed. Because, like, why does anyone want to be good at anything? It really is usually 9 out of 10 times is to eventually make money doing it. So if you're going to dedicate the significant portion of your life into Magic, it'd be good to know that you have a legitimate chance of becoming significantly wealthy playing the game. So that would be extremely important, in my opinion. The next area of how you make a Mythic Championship into international sensation, uh, you need better outfits for the players, in my opinion. I'm talking like, I'm not really talking cosplay, although that would be good too, but I'm talking some just pizzazz outfits, something that's gonna catch someone's eye. Being that is a sharp dressed man, that's a sharp dressed woman, it's a sharp dressed any other gender. We already have it a little bit where a lot of players will break out a hat for a scarf for a big game. Let's up the ante a little bit on that, in my opinion.
I mean, and then even just like the expressing people think about it. So the esports player of the year, um, he's actually a furry. He wears his furry outfit to every
What
single event.
esport?
Uh, for what esport? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
He does mostly fighting games. So
Okay.
he was like Dragon Ball Fighter Z,
Gotcha.
Mortal Kombat, like, games of that sorts. So, and he won the esport player of the year. So even something like that, where they get to express who they truly are is would be something that's massive. Like we said, we're all about expressing who they are,
Yeah.
especially in these
I
tournaments.
mean, no one. There's nothing like everyone can express who they are, and everyone does. But I'm saying like
Well, yeah, no, but
like Cam
I'm saying,
Newton after a game type outfit.
oh yeah, no, and I agree, and I think like everybody should go over the top with their outfits, and I think
Maybe
you
a
know,
massive robe, uh,
yeah,
a Met Gala style like dress or something.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
yeah, go some obnoxious dress that's like as long as the entire walkway coming out, come in with,
That's a good idea, actually.
or what if somebody made like a suit out of their cards, like
That's a great idea.
some like no longer in use Magic cards, or just some cards that are just like worthless, like you just buy a bunch of land cards, and or whenever the Oko,
Yeah, if you could go
whenever
as yeah.
whenever Oko finally gets is no longer the meta, you just get all the cards and you just make an elk outfit out of it.
That would actually be hilarious if someone dresses up as a deer for this tournament. I wouldn't put it past somebody to do that. That's not totally out of the realm of imagination.
Exactly. So, something like that would be absolutely phenomenal. And once again, we're just kind of spitballing ideas out here, but these are things that could just be huge in allowing the game to grow.
Okay, I got one more thing, and that is improve the format of the MPL. This doesn't directly tie into Mythic Championships, but I'm a little confused by how the MPL works. I'm not gonna lie. These whole division splits, not really doing it for me. Um, I wish they would just have like a normal league type thing. Like I think they try to get a little too creative with how they do it. I do like what they're doing with the relegation and with the top four players from each division get a buy-in today too. I like that a lot, but I don't totally understand why like one division will play 1 month and then the next division will play like a month later. It kind of ruins the continuity for me. So I wish they just had all 30 players in a table, um, and then everyone would play each other, and there would be like weekly matches. Very simple. Uh, it would be updated every week. That way, first of all, you could kind of see how the meta progresses week to week, but also just be easier for fans to follow along. And I don't. I hope they go back and revert back to that format. We'll see, because it seems like the general consensus for most
And
people is that the MPL split thing they're doing now is kind of a dud.
and then it also gets people, more invested, week to week basis. It gives you, them something to watch, something to enjoy, and doesn't put so much pressure on these Mythic Championships. And then, like we said, even from the beginning, if you see, your favorite professional player in a Mythic Championship, now you're more uh, willing to watch. You're drawn into it more to see your favorite player, to see that person that you've drawn this connection with to succeed. So I think fixing, the professional league could actually help create, an
Yep,
easier, more fun way to watch the Mythic Championship as well.
agreed. Do you got anything that I missed, will it be?
Oh, no, nothing really. I mean, those are just like the ways that, like we said, that we could improve it. Now we're both excited because we're going to be going to Richmond. We're going to be attending our first live Mythic Championship event, which will be exciting. Um, and obviously, we get to promote the brand, the Aether Hub brand. So maybe we'll be able to bring in some new friends into our Discord as well too, which would actually be very exciting, and just grow the brand that way as well.
Yep. Did we do our predictions at the beginning of the episode?
No, we did not do our
Okay,
predictions
good.
yet. So we haven't done our
So,
predictions of a non-Oko deck that
yep.
they win.
So let's be honest. An Oko deck is probably going to win, but we're going to predict if an Oko deck doesn't win, which one do you think it's going to be, Willie B?
So I'm actually, because of the format of this tournament and because there's so many people that are able to be in this tournament, I'm gonna go with it's kind of bland, but I'm just gonna go with the field. I think that if anything is gonna beat an Oko deck, it's gonna be something that we haven't really seen before. So it's gonna be something that's
I like
almost seen as a jank deck, in the sense of like, what is this person playing? But then for some reason, nobody can beat it because nobody's seen it before, so nobody was able to prep for it.
I like that answer. That's the Stanislav Sivka effect right there.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with the blue-white control deck. That one player in the top 16 of the Mythic Championship qualifier weekend played. Basically, how this deck works is it's plays a lot of counter spells in the beginning of the game, and then kind of cleans up at the end with mass manipulation, agent of treachery, stuff like that. I think it has some good play against Simic decks, just because it's good to steal Nissa or Hydroid Krasis with your mass manipulation, agent of treachery, and you can kind of control. If you're on the play, especially, you can control the turn 2 Oko with they play a bunch of counter spells. And they actually have Mystical Dispute in the main board, I'm pretty sure. So that's a 1-mana counter spell for Oko. So don't love the deck overall, but I think Oko's going to win. But if I had to pick a non-Oko deck, I'm going with blue-white control. And shout out to my guy EDM Virus for being the one guy in the Mythic Championship qualifier to make it with that deck. Also, the one guy, if you will remember from Mythic Championship 5, to play Rakdos Sacrifice, which is now becoming a pretty popular deck. So, big shout out to him. I'm loving his playstyle. Also, big shout out to Chris Kvartek for qualifying again, which is just insanely impressive to enter a tournament that big and come in the top 16 twice in a row out of 1,000 people. That's pretty good, Chris Kvartek. So, shout out to both those guys. Rooting for both of them. If you had to pick a player that's going to win, I don't know. It's so hard to choose when we don't know the deck list yet. I'll probably go Andrea Mangucci. He's been playing well recently.
Yeah. Let's see. If I had to pick a player, part of me just wants to go with the field because I just feel like something. I know that sounds really lame because
the double field
the double field. But otherwise, obviously I'm rooting for Ken Yukihiro, so I'll always stand by him. But yeah, otherwise, I'll just go double field. I'll go double field. I think we're going to see something that we've never seen before.
I like it.
Yeah.
And then the one good part of the tournament this weekend that everyone can be excited for is the draft. Limited for this format, most people say, is actually really good right now. I personally haven't played too much of it because I don't really want to shell out the gems on Arena. But there's 6 rounds of that on day 1, and I believe there's 6 rounds of that again on day 2. So that'll be cool to check that out. It'll be cool to watch in person, too. Really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to seeing you all out there at Mythic Championship 6, like we said earlier. Come up, say hi to us. You'll see me in the suit with an Aether Hub lanyard on. And if we have any playmats left, and you say you're a fan of the podcast, you will definitely have one with your name on it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Willie B, that's it for this week. Thanks to you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.